Hello, this is Professor Iris Miano, going to give you your very first construction demonstration. So this is for Math 32 Plane Geometry through SMC. We will be doing constructions 1 and 2. So if you have your textbook handy, you might want to think about flipping to page 135. I'll go ahead and write that at the top of the page there. Page 135. Here we're going to implement construction 1. What is construction 1? What is the purpose of this? Well, it is a mechanism by which you can construct using a straight edge, a writing utensil, and a compass, a congruent line segment. So this seems like a super basic construction, and indeed it very much is. Once you see the entire process of it, you're going to be like, that's it? Yes, that's it. It's going to be starting off super basic to begin with, and then we just build from there, and then the constructions become more and more complicated as we go. But we got to start somewhere. So here's construction 1. It is for a congruent line segment. So in order to perform this construction and any construction, you're going to need a few tools. A writing utensil. I'm using a mechanical pencil here, and I recommend that you use pencil. Just, it's easier to erase. You're going to need a straight edge. I happen to have a very fun flexible ruler. A simple ID card will do just fine. And then the most important tool that you'll need is this guy right here, a compass. So you might notice that I have this particular style of compass in which there's a screw in the center that allows you to increase or decrease the distance between the center, which is another way of saying the pointy part, and the writing utensil. This is distance is also called the radius. So I recommend this type of layout, this type of structure for your compass, just because I think it's easier to use, and it tends to maintain its radius better when you are making the swing arounds for your arcs, okay? So that's not to say that other designs aren't, good. Other designs are fine. I just like this one best. And I don't want to necessarily plug for the company that I got it from, but I ordered this one off of Amazon. The brand is Mr. Pen, and you may notice that it has kind of a cute little branding on it, in which it has a little mustache sticker in the case that it comes in, along with extra lead and extra centers. So, but you figure out what works best for you. All right? Great. So let's go ahead and go through the process of drawing a congruent line segment. Here we go. So the first step, and you can follow along with the instructions on the middle of page 135 in your textbook for construction 1. We are going to start with drawing ourselves a line segment in order to copy, basically. So how would you do that? Well, give yourself a point and maybe another point. Try to maybe make them line up horizontally and use your straight edge to draw a line connecting them, okay? Like so. And what we usually do in these construction demonstrations is we usually go through the alphabet in naming our points. So I'll go ahead and call this line segment AB. So the purpose of this construction is to go through a series of steps to make another line segment that's exactly the same length and therefore congruent to this given line segment AB. Okay, so the first step so the remaining things that I'm going to do on this page are going to be to make the congruent counterpart. So the first thing that you'll do is wherever you want to make your congruent line segment, you want to give yourself a line. Now, how long is your line? Well, infinitely long technically, right? But we're going to represent that generally with these arrow points on either side of our straight line trajectory, and we'll call this line M. Okay, so I'll use a lowercase m to designate that. All right, now you'll want to take out your compass and use it to more or less measure the distance from A to B. So generally the way that we do this is go ahead and have your center, or the pointy part, line up with the very center of point A, and then open up if you need, or close, depending on how wide your compass is at the moment, the compass so that it encompasses exactly this distance. Okay, it looks like I've got it there, but if you are in doubt, go ahead and put the center on A itself explicitly and make a little arc. And if it looks like you're going through B the way you want to, then it looks like you have captured that distance. Go ahead and put your compass down for the moment and say to yourself, cool, I managed to capture the distance from A to B. Fantastic, I'm in a good spot. Now on your line M, go ahead and maybe you're trying to emulate the point A, so somewhere that seems reasonable on the line, go ahead and put a point, and we're going to name it C on your line M. Now the point of the remaining steps here is to put another point on line M in such a position that the line segment CD, the next point is going to be called D, because we're just going to go through the alphabet, right? Such that the distance from C to D is exactly the same as the distance from A to B, and therefore line segment CD is congruent to line segment AB. So, having captured this distance, take your compass, keep that distance, put the center on C and make an arc on line M, in this case to the right of point C. Now you have the place where you want to put down point D. And there you have it. That's literally all of it. So in making this congruent line segment, we could say specifically according to the series of steps that we took that line segment AB is congruent to line segment CD. Furthermore, because they're congruent, or you could say from the get-go that the measure of line segment AB, so hat off if you're talking about the measure, is equal to the measure of line segment CD. Again, say line segment CD, but recognize that if you have the hat off as far as the notation is concerned, you're speaking about the measures. Measures are equal, line segments themselves can be congruent provided that the measures are equal. Okay, so that's construction 1. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a new paper, and let's tackle construction 2 while we're at it. So we're still on page 135, and we're going to tackle construction 2, which is constructing a midpoint on a line segment. Midpoint of a line segment. Great. So the first thing that you will need to do is give yourself some line segment in order to midpoint, right? And the midpoint, if you recall, from section 3.3, right at the end of it, we're introducing our very first theorem, and it stated that for any line segment, the midpoint is unique. So what we're about to do here is construct the very unique midpoint of line segment AB that I am making up just now. There we go. There's line segment AB. How did I make that up? I literally put 2 points somewhat horizontal to each other on a paper, and I connected them with my straight edge. Okay, it wasn't any more complicated than that, like at all. Okay, so the process by which you determine the midpoint of a line segment is to, right from the get-go, you need to have kind of a basic idea of where the midpoint is, because you need to, in your first arc, overshoot that midpoint, like to an obvious amount. So the whole purpose of this construction is to, with a high amount of accuracy, pinpoint where the midpoint is, but we can kind of eyeball it, right? If we're going from this distance to this distance here, about here-ish is that midpoint, right? So you just want to make sure that your compass distance of the radius, so the distance from the pointy part to the writing utensil, has to overshoot the midpoint. So the pointy part being on one of the endpoints, the writing utensil cannot be where you surmise the midpoint is. At the moment, without changing the radius from my previous construction, the current radius seems to be well overshooting in a pretty, aesthetically pleasing way, I would say, that proposed midpoint. So I'm going to keep it just exactly where it is. You see how far away the writing utensil is from point A, which is where the center is currently? That's perfectly fine. So what you want to do here is, centered at A, go ahead and start from the top, like just directly above A, and draw yourself an arc. Okay, and try your best to keep that center on A. Swing it around town. You see that? And you can even make a full semicircle like I've done here. A semicircle is a half circle. And maintaining whatever radius you deemed appropriate for that first arc, go ahead and put your compass centered at the other endpoint, in this case B, and draw another similar arc above B, but swing it around town such that you intersect that first arc, okay? Cool, and notice that the two arcs intersect. Go ahead and point out those intersection points with little dots and call them what? C and D? Sure. Now, having these points in play, take your straight edge and line them up with C and D and connect them with a line segment, CD. Gorgeous, look at that. And now line segment CD is intersecting with line segment AB. And where are they intersecting? At the midpoint. Call it M. So sometimes you'll deviate from going through the alphabet, and this seems like a good case in point. We have found the midpoint. So now off to the side, just to give this process a little bit of closure, let's just go ahead and write that M is the midpoint of AB, line segment AB, that is. Furthermore, we can say AM, that line segment that was created, is congruent to MB line segment. Those line segments have the same measure, so hats off, set them equal to each other. Anything else that we can say? Technically, what's also happening with CM and MD is the same thing that's happening here. Those line segments are indeed congruent, and M is the midpoint there as well. But really, the purpose of this construction is just to say that M is the midpoint of AB. That's like the main thing that we want to focus on here. So while other things can be true, or said to be true about other elements of this construction, the point of it and the main conclusion that we want to draw is that M is the midpoint of line segment AB. And there you have it. Thank you so much for your attention. More construction demonstrations are forthcoming. I look forward to showing you those things at a future time. Take it easy. Bye.